It's 1:30 and time to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma City Traffic and Transportation Commission. We'll have a roll call of Commissioner Varnell, Commissioner Littlefield,
Present.
Commissioner Long, present. Commissioner Schuline, here. Commissioner Wynn,
here.
Commissioner George,
Here.
Commissioner Cornett,
here.
Okay. We will go to the first item, which is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion regarding this?
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner George. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Long. Any discussion? Okay. Okay, motion is passed. Moving on to the reports from traffic services. Stuart?
All right, you got our monthly summaries before you. We've got one administrative item that was regarding the addition of stop control over at Stinchcomb Avenue and Northwest 63rd Street. And then we have a summary on reverse angle parking, abeyance on the Northwest 39th Street Entertainment District. Just as a reminder, this item was continued, and so it will be heard at the October meeting.
Okay.
But happy to answer any questions that you may have on any of the reports.
Are there any questions or comments for?
Yeah, I'd like to, because this is coming up for a vote next month, I'd appreciate it if planning staff could put together a little bit of a brief presentation on perhaps any kind of, and if there's any record of pedestrian vehicle accidents or pedestrian bike accidents or vehicle accidents in this course of the 6 months, and how the educational outreach went, what your guys' perception would be of that, and what's your opinion of its remaining or not, and why? I think that would be really helpful next month.
Absolutely. So Justin Henry with the City Planning Department. We're about 5 months into our public campaign now. We're not aware of any accidents that have happened since the reverse angle parking has been put in. Let's see, we've done a lot of outreach, especially the district has been a good partner with us on this, really kind of trying to help get the message out there, helping us trying to get some of the after hours counts about compliance and things like that. And we're seeing compliance slowly kind of improve. We're, a lot of times on our counts we're getting close to 65, 70% compliance now, and people actually parking reverse. Something I think I would really kind of emphasize is we don't think we need to probably get to 100% compliance to see a safety benefit from this. So we're not seeing accidents now. If we're seeing better compliance during the day than we are at night, which we kind of expected, but that's also when we expect some of our most vulnerable users like cyclists to be going through the same route. So having that reverse angle where people are kind of being able to have that additional visibility out their left window as they're entering the lane, it really, we still feel like it's the best option that we have right now to kind of preserve that safety element for the cyclists. Okay.
We'll be looking forward to your report next month.
All right.
Okay,
Sure.
so, and if you would, bring your recommendation
Absolutely.
along with that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Rob.
One other thing that I forgot about, what it was. It might come to me if I think about it long enough. It was the detail about this. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? It's gone.
That's right.
I'll email it to you if I think of it.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the consent docket. This is to remove a school zone and flashing warning signal at North Portland Avenue from Northwest 10th to Gold Drive. Is there anyone here that opposes this? Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Okay, thank you. From Commissioner Schuline. Is there a second from Commissioner George? Any discussion? Have your votes, please. Okay, and the motion carries. Moving on to items for individual consideration. We have a request from Daniel Ross in Ward 3 to change the speed limit on South Morgan Road between Southwest 29th Street and Southwest 44th Street from 50 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour, or option 2 would be change the speed limit on South Morgan Road between Southwest 29th and Southwest 59th from 50 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour. Yes, would you please state your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
My name is Daniel Ross. My address is 9905 Southwest 36th Street. It's Yukon because of the post office, but it is Oklahoma City. Yeah, I'm the petitioner for this. Up there, I don't know if thank you very much for whoever prepared this report, going through this. But there's a school right there at 29th and Morgan Road, and the sidewalks on both sides of the street abut the road with frequency. And when you're walking your kids there, and you got semis passing by, and you got cement trucks passing by, and lawnmowers, things like that, it's not the most pleasant experience with that. So I was hoping that we could drop this. I would prefer 40, just personally, for both sides of the road. The reason why, I think on this report, if I understand it, they want the west side to be 45. That is the side that the school is on, actually. And because the school zone is staggered on Morgan Road, usually people see the blinking light thinking, oh, that it ends there, and there's still several hundred yards worth, so they're hitting their accelerators, and it's an elementary school. I'm walking my kids there every morning, walking with our dogs, things like that. There's the only place to cross the road in that whole mile stretch is right there at the intersection. There's a lot of kids that go in between the neighborhoods. Of course, they're kids. They don't go up out of their way. They just run across the road, things like that. So as far as south of that, with this study, I didn't have any words on that, so that's all new to me. But yeah, me personally, between 29th and, 44th and 59th. So the school's at 44th and Morgan. No, I'm sorry. 29th and 44th, 40 miles per hour on both sides. I think the people that live there, that walk their kids to school, would be greatly appreciative of that. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the petitioner? Okay. Anyone else here to speak on this item?
Do you guys have problems getting out of your additions due to the traffic, or traffic count, I would say?
Yes, I will say that. Just because it's 50 miles an hour, so you don't want to pull in front of somebody. So especially if you're doing a left-hand turn out of the neighborhood, you kind of do have to wait.
And the reason I bring that up is last month we had a really similar deal in a different ward, but it was basically the same,
Yeah.
just substitute different street numbers in it, it's the same scenarios.
Okay.
And regardless of what we decide up here, most of those housing additions, I drove Morgan Road last week, and then I drove it this morning just for this particular, the appearance that you get from driving down Morgan Road, because the house is set so far off the road.
But it's very wide open, but the
It's very
sidewalks
wide
are
open.
very, very close to the road.
And that's
Yep.
usually, and
Yeah. Well, like the,
people are gonna drive, what I was gonna say is people are gonna drive as the conditions warrant. So if it's a wide open street, that speed limit, we could reduce the speed limit to 40 or 45, either one, and they're gonna
That's when I
drive
would put in
52
a call
miles an
to
hour.
our friendly police department or sheriff and say, can we get a few more patrols on this stretch so people can hopefully realize?
I'll give you an example. Southwest 134th Street, that was what we covered last month. The motorcycle police officers, I retired from Oklahoma City Fire Department after 28 years. Those guys used to come into my fire station and catch up their ticket books.
Yeah,
And they write 10 tickets in an hour every day, all day long, between Santa Fe and on 134th between Santa Fe and Western, because the speed limit went from 50 to 40. And everybody's still going 52 miles an hour. And those guys are there all day, every day, writing tickets. And so, at the end of the day, if we reduce the speed limit, the people are still going to drive as to their comfort level.
I fully understand that. I also know that, that those lands, there are developers trying to buy those lands. There's gonna be more houses, there's gonna be more people walking on the sidewalks. And like I said, I walk my little kids to that school.
Yep.
I walk those sidewalks with great frequency. And I don't wanna see a kid hit,
I don't
by a
either.
car going 50 miles an hour.
You know, I drove that this morning. There was a farmhouse down there that had, I didn't know where you lived, so I was trying to kind of get a lay of the land before I made a judgment either
Yeah.
way. I don't disagree with you at all. There was a farmhouse down there that had line of sight issues, and I was hoping that wasn't yours. I was gonna say mow the.
I'm in the neighborhood.
Okay, you're in the neighborhood.
I'm in the neighborhood,
But I could see, the farmhouse that they had here, they need to mow their entrance, because it wouldn't matter if the speed limit's 30 or 50, it's just gonna be how hard you get hit when you pull
Yeah.
out of the addition, or
Yes.
pull out of your driveway. This here, I totally sympathize with where you're coming from. And I'm not opposed to reducing the speed limit from 50 to 45 through there. They do have a school zone that's properly labeled with the proper traffic control devices. And then I think that we would be overstepping what we need to do if we were to reduce the speed limit south of 44th Street, because you're still in a rural area and there's not
Yeah.
enough traffic count to reduce,
I'm not
warrant
talking about reducing south of 44th. That wasn't a part of my
Okay.
petition. I was just literally talking about the mile between 29th and 44th, where the neighborhoods are, where people are walking,
Yes.
things like that.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, do we have a motion regarding item 5A?
I would make a motion that we reduce the speed limit between 29th and Southwest 44th Street from 50 to 45 miles per hour.
Okay. Okay, do you want to address the section of road between Southwest 44th and 59th, or do you want to do just 29th to 44th?
29th to 44th.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Long and a second by Commissioner George.
And
Any-
that, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just real quick, that would actually be a motion to amend the way it's currently written. So we would take a vote first on the motion to amend it to read that before we actually take the vote on whether to approve it or not.
Okay,
Okay.
so we will need a motion regarding the applicant's request as it stands. So we would either need to approve it or disapprove, and then
Okay.
take a motion to amend the request. Is that correct?
First, basically, we would take that motion, you would make the motion to amend the proposed motion to change it between 29th and 44th from 50 to 45 miles per hour.
Okay.
That would be the motion to amend it.
Okay, so is your motion to amend?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the speed limit from 50 to 45 from Southwest 29th to Southwest 44th.
Okay, Do you agree with your?
Yes, I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the request to go to 45 miles an hour between Southwest 29th and Southwest 44th with a second from Commissioner George.
Yes.
But we're good on that?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Littlefield?
My brain might be going too fast, but I see a better consistency if it were to be the 45 from 29th all the way to 59th, given that it drops down to 40 on the other side of that. I'd hate to see a 45 to a 50 and then back down to 40. It seems you're just creating the same problem farther down the road.
Okay.
I would prefer to support 45, the full range, as recommended by staff as the alternate.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's my
That
view.
makes sense after looking at your drawing.
The one thing is that when you get to 59th, it turns into Mustang city limits. That's why it's 40, and it's much more heavily populated there. Between 59th and 44th, it is very rural still. There's not much there. So I think it's fine to keep it at 50 for that mile, but whatever. I mean, you know, I like the 45 just for the mile myself.
Any other discussion? So the motion stands for reducing the speed limit from 50 to 45 between Southwest 29th and Southwest 44th.
Yes, sir.
And the amendment.
For the amendment.
That's
Correct.
correct. Okay?
And if the amendment fails, then we're back to the original options.
Okay.
The first, either 1 or 2.
So this, we'll be voting for the amendment to the request. Okay, your votes, please. This was from Commissioner George. Okay, and the amendment has passed. Okay? So the section road between Southwest 44th and Southwest 59th will remain at the 50 miles per hour. Okay?
But now we still have to vote.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So now
So
now
you
we
need to make
have
the applicant-
the
Make-
amended
make your-
motion.
again.
Right. But now we just have to take a motion on that amended motion.
So do we have a motion for the second item, which would be decreasing the speed limit from Southwest 44th to Southwest 59th? Is there a motion regarding that?
No, I think at this point in time, you're just going to be voting on the amended item, which is the single mile reduction from 50 to 45.
Okay.
Be voting on that.
Yes.
Correct.
Because you've amended it, now you just need to vote on it.
Okay, so this would not be another amendment. This would just be on the second item.
Correct.
Okay, do we have a motion regarding the second item?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Long to approve the second item of the petitioner's request.
Yes. And I'll second.
Okay, and a second from Commissioner George. Okay, so we're all on the same page.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf or against? Okay, so it is time for a vote to approve from Southwest 44th to Southwest 59th,
Yeah.
reducing the speed limit from 50 miles an hour to 45. Your votes, please. And that motion has passed. So we will have 45 miles an hour from Southwest 29th to Southwest 59th.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Could I ask when or how soon that change might occur?
We'll send out service requests to have the signs replaced. It should probably be within a week or less.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And ladies, your staff is awesome, by the way.
Okay, item 5B, we have a letter to withdraw this item. So we will move on to item 5C, A request?
Do you want to make a motion to have it struck from the
Ah,
agenda?
Yes.
Keep it clean.
Do we have a motion to strike this from the agenda?
I make a motion to strike this
Okay,
agenda
a
item.
motion from Commissioner Schuline. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Go for it.
A second from Commissioner Cornett. And any discussion? Okay, your votes, please. Item passed. It is stricken from the agenda. Okay, item 5C, a request from Kurt Goss, and this would be change the speed limit on West Hefner Road between North MacArthur Boulevard and North Meridian Avenue from 45 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour. Is there? Good afternoon, sir. Your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Sure. Kurt Goss. My address is 5512 Northwest 107th Terrace, Oklahoma City, 73162.
Thank you.
Okay. The city has installed a new bike and pedestrian path across Hefner Road. Very nice, by the way, but it's at the light on Ann Arbor, and that traffic is very fast on Hefner Road, probably 55 most of the time or more. And so my wife and I walked there. Oh, there's some pictures. Good. My wife and I walked there across that road a lot, and that light is run by very speedy people for quite often. I've seen numerous accidents there over the years. We've lived where we live for 9 years. Seen numerous accidents, a lot of close calls as well, including some with us in the crosswalk. So the problem is, you might see there's a pretty sharp curve headed to the west on Hefner Road, and people who are not familiar with it don't know that intersection is coming up. There is a blinking light, but it's only about 300 feet from the intersection, and so not very far. And when they get around there, there's not much time to apply their brakes and stop. So that's the biggest issue. Also, in that stretch, there are two curves. That one is that serious curve there, and there's another curve as well. And people perhaps not paying any attention to they're paying attention to their phone, not their driving. They cross that line sometimes. So if it slowed down a little, it would be a big help. There's also Bluff Creek Park. Down the hill from the road. I've never seen a kid run away from parents up into the road, but it's a possibility between Hefner and Ann Arbor primarily. And there's also a deer warning sign there. Many deer cross there. I've seen a lot of dead deer on the side of the road. I don't know what it did to the car, but I know what it did to the deer. And so that's another dangerous spot there. If people could just slow down a little. As you address, they may not, but it would give an opportunity for people to slow down there. And I think especially protecting that crosswalk there is the biggest issue, I believe. So all the way from from Meridian to MacArthur would be good. If there's a plan B from Meridian to Ann Arbor, that's where really the danger zone is that I see.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Do we have a motion regarding item 5C?
I'll move to approve.
Motion
Start
approved
discussion.
from Commissioner Cornett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Schuline. So open up. Yes. Well, I was going to call them after a motion so we could open up for discussion. Thank you, though. Yes. So we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Cornett, a second from Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on the horseshoe before we call the person that opposes this? Okay. I believe there is a Paul Rodesny here to speak. Would you come to the microphone and your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Paul Rodesny, 7328 Northwest 111th Street in Oklahoma City, basically around Rockwell and Hefner. And I was here in 2019, and I was the one that was able to raise the speed limit from Broadway Extension, Lake Hefner Parkway, west 6 miles to where it runs into Northwest Highway. The argument back then was there were several times when it was raised or lowered, and this time it was decided to go with consistency. They liked this consistent 45 miles an hour instead of raising and lowering and having different speed limits through there. There were studies done that 45 was the adequate and proper speed. 50 was too much. 40 may be acceptable, but 45 was the proper speed. I think it's in the 50 percentile, maybe even 85%. I do drive it quite a bit. I guess it says there's just under 23,000 people daily that drive that road. I do see the intersection that's discussed in Ann Arbor. There is a button on the traffic light that you can push the button. It will stop the traffic. Easy way to get across. I mean, I think the city's already accomplished that. So it's, there is a lot of traffic through there, but not enough to where the traffic won't stop. Let the bicycles go across. So that I think with the button on the traffic light, I think that situation's already been taken care of. As opposed to as with the park has been there for quite a few years. In my opinion, I can't imagine the city would leave a park in a dangerous road. The kid may go up the road, maybe there's a fence that could be put between the park and the road. I don't think slowing the people down to 40 will do much, but I have been through there several times behind people that are doing 40 or below. So you see it on the highways, you see it on Hefner Road. When there's a curve, people tend to slow down. So they're going 40 or less on their own. We don't really need to dictate, and then once they get past Ann Arbor, then it's wide open, it's free flowing, and 45 I think is the right speed instead of down, up. I don't think we need that. I know he lives in that addition. I'm kind of suspicious why he would want something right in front of his area. If you go a mile and a half west where I live on Rockwell and Hefner, it's a lot busier, a lot more restaurants, a lot more neighborhoods. It's a lot busier, but the traffic flows. They have the traffic lights, the traffic flows. I live just west of Rockwell and Hefner, and I left my house at 12:45 this afternoon to come down here. I pulled up to Hefner to exit the neighborhood. There was no one going east or west. So there's lots of open areas. There's lots of time when you can get out and get on the traffic, get in the flow of traffic. But consistency, I think, is what we need here, instead of lowering it just for a park that we can put a fence up or put something up to take care of that in case a kid may get away from the parents. I don't see it happen. It hasn't happened yet. And there is already a button at Ann Arbor for people to cross. I think it's already taken care of.
Very good, thank you.
you.
Okay, any questions, comments? Commissioner Littlefield?
I seem to recall this, reading the staff report, I don't have the dates memorized. When we changed this back, it's been changed twice over time.
Yeah, on page 3 in the report, there's a history section where the commission has looked at this in 2017, and then most recently when Mr. Rodesny was the applicant in May of 2019.
And I seem to recall a lot of discussion at the time about the soon-to-be crosswalk and bike path infrastructure at that time, and that it was reduced then with that in consideration to what it is now. Am I correct on
believe
that?
the discussion was assumed to be was at Meridian, that they were going to cross at Meridian by the park and could cross over they were going to build something along the bottom of the dam. I don't think that ever got done. That's why they moved it to Ann Arbor.
It's in the vicinity of where the speed limit was lowered, though I don't recall the details, but what I'm trying to say is I recall that at the time that it was changed before, it was done with bicyclists in the park in mind. That's my only point.
Yeah, there are paths that go around the park up to Ann Arbor, and that's where the button is so people can cross.
Gotcha.
Okay.
it was changed back to 45, and I think everybody liked that. But that was before there was the bike trail that gets quite a few pedestrians and bikes across there. That's the issue, really. And so if there was a revision, it would be to just revise it from Meridian to Ann Arbor and slow that traffic down coming from the east to the west with that curve. And that's where I see the danger.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? My big concern on this is, and Stuart, do you want to address the Bill of Light report that you generated on this?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so in our staff comments, we go through, and when we review speed limit change requests, there are a couple different a couple different methods that we use. There is a Bell of Light methodology, which we had pulled from the ITE journal from, golly, almost 10 years ago at this point in time. And there is also an NCHRP, which is a National Cooperative Highway Research Program report that also proposes a method to set appropriate speed limits. And this method came out in the latter part of 2021. It is a means to evaluate the conditions under which through which a roadway passes, and it will suggest a reasonable speed limit. The Bell of Light methodology also looks at setting what it calls as a credible speed limit. And in addition to those methods, we go out and we conduct speed studies. We conducted speed studies in 2017 when we had an initial request from a gentleman named Martin Otero, which was to take the speed limit from 45 to 40 from basically MacArthur all the way over to State Highway 74. And we had a study done in 2017 where we had like a 85th percentile speed of 49, and we had a 50th percentile speed of 45. Well, in the subsequent years, when we looked at a case in 2019 for Mr. Radesny, when we were looking at, the request was to change it from 40 to 45 and normalize the speed limit. We had studies done in 2019, and then for this case, we restudied it in 2023. And basically what we're seeing is, like, when it comes to the 50th percentile speeds, which you'll see on page 2 of your report, you'll see that regardless of how the road is posted, in 2019, when it was posted 40 miles an hour, the 50th percentile speeds were running just a little bit better than 40 miles an hour. When it was posted 45 miles an hour after 2019, you'll see in the last green column on the far right side that for most of the miles that we studied, going from in the first 4 columns, which would take you all the way from the Northwest Expressway over to MacArthur, driver response to the built environment was the same, and it didn't matter if it was posted 40 miles an hour or 45 miles an hour. A lot of times there is a presumption you post it, at one speed, and drivers typically will travel X so many miles faster than that. Well, in this particular case, we had speeds posted less than what we were observing, and then a speed limit posted higher than what it turned out. We still continued to observe. So in this particular case, Hefner Road, most driver response to Hefner Road with respect to driving speed causes about half drivers thereabouts to travel just slightly over 40 miles an hour. So they're running basically from about 41 to, when you get closer over to the Hefner Parkway, your speeds will pick up some, but then again, you're also probably looking at a lot of drivers that have exited the Hefner Parkway and are now transitioning back to city streets, and they're probably used to a faster operating speed. Did I cover the bases on addressing your question needs?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. Anyone have any questions or comments to Stuart? Okay. We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Cornett with a second from Commissioner Schuline. Your votes, please. Okay, we have 3 for and 4 against. The motion has failed. All right. Okay, thank you.
My Say thank you for installing the trail crossing signs. I think that will help some, but I did want to go for the speed limit also. So thank you, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on.
So is that the end of that, or do we have to make a motion to deny the application?
Though that should be it.
Okay.
It's been turned down. Okay, item 6 is comments from the citizens. Do we have any comments? Okay, we'll go on to reports and other items from the traffic commissioners. Start with Commissioner Littlefield. Do you have anything today?
It took me 35 minutes, but I remembered what it was I wanted to say. Between now and the October meeting regarding the 39th Street District,
Yes.
do you plan to continue to do the spot checks and
Yes.
until as close to the point of hearing to make a report as possible? That'll be appreciated.
Yes, so we could do that. Would you also like to maybe hear from a district representative at the same time as well that we've been working with?
I would like this body to be able to hear from anybody that can support why it should stay.
All right.
And of course, everybody has an opportunity to speak of why they wouldn't want it to stay as well, but yes,
All right?
that'd be
Can
great.
do. Thanks.
And I have one other comment. Stuart, Councilman Cooper and I received a comment from a citizen regarding the crosswalk on Northwest Highway and Villa. And they're under the impression that it's not timed quite long enough for folks walking with a child to get across it quick enough, or possibly somebody that's dependent on handicap apparatus to make it across. If we could look at that and make sure that the length of available time for a pedestrian to make that crossing is set appropriately.
And we took a look at that this morning when we were notified, and we've already changed timing on it.
Thank you very much.
And what we'd observed was that the signal controller is being replaced as part of the BRT project. And when the controller was replaced, it had basically a factory setting for the amount of pedestrian crossing time, which was not sufficient. And so we've gone ahead and modified that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner Long? Okay, Commissioner Cornett?
I did have one thing that I was going to email to Stuart, but I'll just tell you while we're here. The pedestrian signal on Southeastern Avenue as you're coming off of I-40 on the south side of the road. So the new river trail that connects to Katy Trail for the bike path, there's a pedestrian signal there that wasn't turned on maybe a week ago. And it's the only apparatus that a bike can use to cross that street safely. And so I just wanted you to, if you could take a look to see if that's been given the green light. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schuline?
I'm sorry, I wasn't here last month when Captain Lindsay reported on the follow-up for the adherence to traffic or to stop sign compliance in Heritage Hills and Mesta Park. He indicates there were 62 contacts made. I wonder, that seems like a lot to me, but do you know if they intend to follow up anymore? Or it's kind of unfair since you're not Captain Lindsay. But
That's true. I often think it's unfair that I'm not Captain Lindsay. We can continue that extra patrol if desired. I think he wanted to report back these numbers. It's to the credit of the officers. They're very attentive and they did take it seriously. Hopefully that would educate the motoring public, so that they could voluntarily comply with it. But if you request an additional look at it, we were happy to do that.
I did hear from another resident just this last week, but I hadn't had an opportunity to report back to them on what we found out from the first selective enforcement. So
Okay.
if they do have any extra time, it might be appreciated.
For sure. I'll make a note and I'll report that to Captain Lindsay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wynn?
Nothing.
Okay, Commissioner George?
Nope, not today.
The only thing I have today is a big thank you to Stuart for prompting me as the media legal I won't speak to, but I do appreciate everyone's patience and understanding today as I chaired for the second time, I think. Anyway, is there any other order of business?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I do, at the sake of, well, at the risk of making everybody's brains hurt, go back to 5A just real quick. I want to make sure that everybody understood what ended up happening. This is the Ward 3 from Mr. Daniel Ross. Ultimately, well, first it's 1 or 2. Ultimately, we amended 1. And then it's my understanding that after that amendment, we actually voted for 2, which put,
They voted on 1 and 2, but 1 was already included in 2 when it was reduced to 45. As awkward as it sounds.
did the commission actually want the speed limit to be 45 from Southwest 29th to 59th or 44th?
44.
I'm not sure if that's what happened or not, to be honest with you.
No, it is in my mind, because it was amended, the application was amended to that, and then it was voted on in the affirmative of that, from 59th to 44th. I'm sorry, from 29th to 44th.
And I suggested that I preferred encompassing the full range of
Right.
what's, but it was, there was discussion, no, we'd like to just stick to that path.
Right, the 1 mile.
So everybody believes it's from 29th to 44th?
I
what
do.
was changed?
Yes.
No, I'm gonna let that go at this point. I mean, we could do a motion to reconsider and clarify it, but if everybody understands that, do we believe that was is that what you believe was accomplished, Stuart?
That's what was accomplished. If you go back and look at the tape,
Okay.
that's what
Exactly
happened.
what I do. I would just go back and I'd replay the
I just
video
wanted
from
to
the
make
meeting.
sure that before we.
It was confusing.
Yes.
If you have any questions, please contact Commissioner Kula. I'm done with 5A.
All right.
And
That's
just
all
to-
I got.
Just to be clear for one more second, Rob did want to keep the 2 miles, but we had already amended it to the 1 mile, and we voted on that. He voted against it. He wanted it to go the full 2 miles, but everybody else voted for the 1 mile.
Right.
Okay.
Then we voted for the application as amended.
So we're all good?
Yes.
I'm scared now.
I just, nobody felt that, everybody knew, was voted on what they intended and that
I
they didn't
do.
feel like it was wrong.
I
and
feel
changed. Okay, all right.
All righty then. Anything else? If not, then we are dismissed. Thank you.